Hi, it's Mrs. Tucker. So for today's lesson, we actually are going to use our reader's notebook as well as the hard reading book. Now, I know you have your reader's notebook with you and that you don't have the hard reading book. So when it asks us to do something with a page in the hard reading book, I'm going to do my best to hold that up in front of the screen for you so that you can see the words that I'm reading, because that will help you create the answer that you need to put down in your reader's notebook. So you're going to need to get out your reader's notebook. You're going to turn to page 192. 192, and I have it in front of me so that you can see what it looks like. It says Schools Around the World at the top, 192. And as we go through this, I'm going to read what the question is asking us to do. I'll read the page that it's asking you to be reading, and then you're going to be writing down an answer on the line to answer each question. At the top it says, Schools Around the World, create your own school. There are many different schools in the story. Some were like your school and some were very different. So the first thing we need to do, it says to read page 441. So I'm going to hold that up for us. And the question we're going to answer after we read that is, how are all schools the same? So as I'm reading through this, be thinking on how you can answer that question. How are all schools the same? Okay, on page 441 it says, schools are different in different parts of the world, but they are all the same in one way. Schools are where children go to learn. So now you need to get your pencil or whatever you're using to write with, and you need to answer the question, how are all schools the same? If you need to pause the video and go back to the page that I just held up while I was reading, go ahead and do that so you can answer the question. You can pause right here till you get the answer written down. Okay, good job. Now, the second one is asking us to read page 442, and we are going to answer the question, how are school buildings different? So let me get page 442 here for you to look at. And while I'm reading through this, you're going to be thinking and listening for how school buildings are different. So let me get that in front of us here. Let me zoom out just a little bit so that you can see it a little bit better. There. Okay. School buildings. The kind of school buildings children have depends on where they live. It depends on the climate and the resources of their community. School buildings can be large or small. They can be made from many different materials. Some children even go to school outside or in buildings with no walls. All right, let me get that out of the way, and I'll zoom back in on our workbook page. So now, if you need to pause for a second, pause the screen, and you're going to answer the question, how are school buildings different? If you need to go back and listen to that again, go ahead and go back and listen to it again, or so you can see the words to help you with your answer. Okay, for the next one, it's asking us to read page 443. And the question that we need to answer are, what are some ways students go to school? So let me get page 443 in front of us here. And I know I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit for it. So give me a second and I'll get it zoomed out so we can see page 443. Okay. Getting to school. Children travel to school in many different ways. The kind of transportation they use depends on where they live. It also depends on how far they have to go. Many children walk or ride bicycles to school. Others ride in cars, on buses, or on a train. Some children go to school by boat. Let me move this out of the way. Zoom back in on that workbook page that you're working on right now. Okay, so now you can answer the question, what are some ways students get to school? If you need to pause while you're answering it, go ahead and hit pause, and then go back and listen to it again if you need to. Now, for the next question, the fourth question, it's asking us to read page 444. And while we're reading that, we are going to be thinking about, how do children dress at school? So let me bring that page in front of us here. And I'm going to need to zoom out a little bit so that you can see it. And we're talking about school clothing. Children around the world wear different kinds of clothing to school. What they wear often depends on the climate where they live. It also depends on what season it is. In some schools, the students all dress alike. They wear uniforms. Students from different schools have different uniforms. So now let me get this out of the way and zoom back in on that workbook page. Now you can answer that question. How do children dress at school? If you need to pause for a second, go ahead and pause. Now, for the very last question, we need to read pages 446 and 447. And we need to answer the question, what are some things children do at school? So you'll have to bear with me as I get both of those pages ready to go here. I'm going to start with page 446 and then I'll slide page 447 across so you can see it. You're thinking of, remember, you're answering the question, what are some things children do at school? So here's page 446. It says, learning to read and write. One important job for teachers is to help children learn to read and write. Students learn to read and write in many different languages. The language children use at school depends on where they live. Some children study their own language and another language too. Let me slide this over so you can see page 447. Other lessons. Children learn many things at school. All around the world they study math and science. They learn about their own country and other countries too. Many children around the world study art and music in school. They may also learn how to use a computer. So now you want to answer that last question on the page, page 192. It says, what are some things children do at school? If you need to go back and pause it or go back and read it again, go ahead and do that. Now, once you have those 5 questions finished, you're going to need to take a picture of that and send it to your teacher. So send it to Mrs. Dellinger, send it to Mr. Dockey, send it to Mrs. Tucker. Take a picture with your iPad of your finished reader's notebook page with the answers on it. Make sure it's close up a little bit so that we can actually see what's there. And you need to send it to us so that we know that you have it finished. And it will be going in as part of your completed assignments. If you feel like doing a little bit more with it, if you turn the page in your reader's notebook, and I'll turn the page here, it says you're going to open your own school. Write an announcement telling people what makes your school special so they want to come to your school. Think about the school building, what children will wear, what children will learn, and what children will do. So if you want to, you can do this part on page 193. It says right here, a new school will open soon in our town. The name of the school is, and then it's blank, so you get to come up with the name of the school. This school is different from other schools in these 3 ways. So you can come up with 3 different ways, 3 different sentences telling ways that your school is different from other schools. So think about it. You could have fun and create your own school. Remember, when you're finished with page 192, that was the page we had here, make sure you send a photograph to your teacher. If you happen to do page 193, great, send that to us too. That'll be fantastic. And if you have any questions or if you're not sure how to answer that, you can always go back and listen to the story again to help you answer the questions on this page 192. Okay, thanks for listening and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.